Hey, these are some example problems from 1.6a and b. So this first problem is an equation because there's an equal sign and not a less than, greater than, inequality sign. So the first thing I have to do before I break this into two separate problems is isolate the absolute value bars. So in order to isolate the absolute value bars, I need to move this -4. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Now I have absolute value of 2x minus 1 equals 17 plus 4 is 21. Now that my absolute value bars are isolated, means there's nothing else with them, nothing before them, nothing after them. Now I can break it into two separate equations. So the first equation is going to say 2x minus 1 equals 21. And the second one's going to say 2x minus 1 equals, and I want to negate that answer, so -21. I solved both of those problems, and I am done. So here I'm going to add 1. 2x equals 22, divide by 2, x equals 11. Same thing over here. I'm going to add 1. Be careful. It should not give you an answer. It's not that it can't happen, but a lot of people assume that it's just 11, and then the other answer is, oh, it's -11. It's not exactly how this works, right? Because when I take this -21 plus 1 is going to be -20 divided by 2. The actual answer is x equals -11. Very good. So that's 1.6a. Here's an example for 1.6b, very, very similar. First thing I'm going to need to do is isolate my absolute value bars. So again, I've got this -2, so I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Now I've got absolute value of x plus 8 is less than 12. Now I'm ready to separate into two separate equations. What I need to remember to do is flip and negate. Means make negative, right? So I need to flip my sign and I need to negate. So here I have x plus 8 is less than 12. I'm going to need a word in between here. So L, this is a less than, it looks like an L, and we call those land problems. So right in the beginning, an L is a land problem, so I should write the word and in between. And now I need to flip and negate. So I've got the x plus 8 is greater than -12. I flipped this sign and I negated the answer. And now I solve. Subtract 8. X is less than 4. I need the word and in between still. It's part of my solution. And subtract 8. X is greater than -20. So that is the inequality portion of my answer. It's part of my answer. But I also need to graph and put an interval down. Let's graph with black. Doesn't need to be a fancy graph, but I'm going to throw a number line down. What comes first on a number line? -20 is before 4. And it's an and problem. So I'm thinking in my head, and problems sandwich between the two numbers. So I'm expecting my answer to be right in here. So first I got to think about this -20. This says x is greater than -20. So I'm going greater than -20. That looks good to me. And what kind of a sign am I going to have here? Is it a parenthesis or is it a bracket? It's going to be a parenthesis because it doesn't have the equal to underneath it. So parenthesis there. And now I'm looking at this piece. X is less than 4. So less than 4, from the 4, it's going less. Okay, I like that. Is it a parenthesis or a bracket? Again, a parenthesis because it doesn't have an equal to. So what I like about and problems is I take that right off the graph, and my interval solution is -20, 4. And again, there's 3 parts of every solution. Here's the inequality part, here's the graph, and here's my interval portion of my solution. One more thing I need to do is isolate my absolute value bars before I can do anything else. So I subtract 2 from both sides. I now have absolute value of x minus 3 is greater than or equal to 5. And again, I want to remind us what kind of a problem we have. It was a greater than sign. So greater than are or problems. And you look at the original problem, if it's a greater than sign, it's an or problem. Sometimes I think of like gore, like scary movies or whatever, gore, greater than or problems. These are gory. The intervals look a little crazy at the end. That's how I think of it. So here we go. I'm ready. Now that my absolute value bars are isolated, I'm ready to write 2 different equations. So my first equation is going to be x minus 3 is greater than or equal to 5. We said this is going to be an or problem, so I'm going to write the word or in between, and now I'm going to say x minus 3, and it stays x minus 3 even though it's a minus. Some people try to change that. Whatever's inside the absolute value bar stays. So it's still x minus 3, and now remember the rule is I need to flip and negate. So I'm going to flip that sign, and it's become less than or equal to, and then I have to negate the answer. It becomes negative 5. So now I solve the problem, and I've got x is greater than or equal to 8, or x is less than or equal to negative 2. I'm going to throw those on a number line. Negative 2 comes before 8 on a number line. I'm starting at the negative 2, and it looks like it's going to the left. Remember, this is kind of like an arrow, and it's pointing the direction that you're going. So from negative 2, I'm going to go to the left when I shade. And is this a bracket or a parenthesis? I'm asking myself. Well, I see the equal to bar underneath, and therefore I know it's a bracket. It actually is a solution at negative 2. And then from the 8, this arrow is pointing to the right. So from 8, I'm going to go to the right. And again, I see this equal to, so I know it's a bracket again. And I remind myself who lives on this far extreme. It's negative infinity on this side, and it's a positive infinity on this side. That's going to be important when I go to write my intervals. So intervals are read from left to right. So left to right, it starts over at negative infinity. Remember, infinities always get a parenthesis because you can't reach infinity. You can only approach it. And then I have this negative 2, and I'm going to keep the bracket on it. And then I got to remind myself what symbol means I'm jumping over a portion of my graph. It's the union symbol. So it's a big U without a tail. And then I start back up at 8. And my solution set goes all the way to positive infinity. And again, there's a bracket on the end. So I have 3 parts of my solution again. Here's my inequality part. Here's my graph. And here's my interval.